Primos y primas, que lo que, welcome, bienvenidos to the Dear God Are We There Yet, the podcast con tu prima favorita. Soy Alicia Sanchez, and yes, this podcast is bilingual, empowering social good one conversation at a time, sharing weekly insights and inspirations from people adding their magic to make this world a better place. Whether you want to learn more about volunteer travel, being more socially conscious, or you love a good conversation that breaks down barriers while evoking pasión and emoción, this is the podcast for you. Grab a cafecito y vamos a hablar. Primos y primas, que lo que, I have an amazing author on the podcast today. Why? She's amazing because, first of all, I love children's books. I mean, I think like my daughter has so many books and she's only almost a year old and le encanta leer. She literally loves to read like every little thing. And I think it's not even the reading because she makes the little noises like blah, 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 like, you know how we're doing it. But I have on the show today, Helen, and she is an amazing author and of a new book that just came out and it's called David's Pretzels. Super excited to hear about that. But Helen, how are you?
I'm just fine.
Awesome. And I wanted to ask you because, you know, writing children's books, I'm always interested because Madonna wrote a book. There's so many different people that write children's books. Do you have to get into your inner child to write the book? Because I know that this book is for like 4 to 8 year olds, right?
Well, yeah. So you have to be a little bit of a kid to be able to do it.
Yeah. So how do you get, I really want to know, like, ¿Qué tú necesitas? Like, what do you need to get into that little, because I feel like I'm a big kid sometimes when I'll make jokes and I my imagination, but to write a book, like, what is your inspiration little regime? What do you do? Do you go to like the playground? Like, do you play with toys? Like, I'm just curious, being nosy.
Well, I'm a retired first grade teacher. So I say I was in first grade for 30 years. So only one of those as a student, but...
Oh, wow. Have you ever written any characters from your students? I'm just curious.
Well, yes, I have, but those actually were not children's books. So,
for
adults, for the two that I wrote about kids in my class. Most of the inspiration for the books I have now come either from, well, David is my son, and I have one inspired by two grandchildren. I have one I'm working on and one that I have finished was inspired by something they said. So you just have to be aware of listening to the kids.
Yeah. And how do you know what kids would be interested? Because I mean, I'm always thinking that sometimes, you know, simple is the best way to go. And I know that, but then it's like, how do you make simple fun? Like if it's ABCs or something, how do you make that fun?
Well, actually, David's Pretzels has, for each group of 3 letters, there's a strange word. So it starts off with A is for antimacassar. Well, who knows what an antimacassar is?
Yeah, I know.
So there is a glossary at the end of the book and also a little blurb to kind of encourage you to read the dictionary so that you learn more words. And there's just tons of words that just might tickle your fancy just because of how they sound or what they mean or just anything. So
yeah, and I love that. Have you ever watched on Netflix the series called the Spelling Bee series?
Yeah.
I love it. I would say, and some of those words, I'm like, oh my gosh. And they're like, what is the origin? I'm like, I don't even know where it comes from. But yo quiero hablar cierto eso. I want to talk about like the importance, since you're a teacher and there's moms that could be listening and parents, and the importance of reading and why books are a thing still, because we live in this world where there's technology and you just give them a gadget or put on the TV. And sometimes we're shying away from that old-fashioned book where you touch and you read and you flip through the pages and you look at the glossy. Like, as a teacher, I want you to tell the audience and the community of like why it is such an important thing to, like you said, explore these words and reading.
Reading is the key to whole worlds beyond where you are. You can go, I mean, I can take trips to Russia and Antarctica and all different kinds of places if I know how to read. And the reading and the words, if you start reading to your child, well, you can even start before they're born because they can actually hear your voice before that. But to read to your child, even when you think they don't understand what you're reading, they still begin to understand that all those little black marks mean something. And just all the things about how do you use a book. You turn the pages, you start here, you turn the pages, you read on the left and then you read on the right. And the rhythm of reading something is different than when you're just talking to them too.
Yeah,
So I'm a fan of read.
Yeah, and we actually, para todo el mundo que está escuchando, we have an opportunity, a volunteer opportunity on our site, and it's called Read With Me. And volunteers actually go on Zoom with a child, and they will read a book, anything at all. And it's really about confidence, because I think that, like you said, the rhythm, either reading it out loud or pronouncing these words, and broadening the vocabulary from just saying regular word, like, or yes, or this or that, like just broadening their vocabulary is super, super important. Have you ever, I know you like crafts and stuff. Have you ever thought of doing something where like a craft book of some sort and a reading element?
Well, I haven't done a whole lot of that. One of the things that I'm working on is lesson plans built around a nativity scene, kind of to show you the difference between the Bible, the biblical, historical, what's really in there, and then what tradition has added to it, what's fiction, what's nonfiction, what's real, what's made up. And because I collect nativity sets as one of my hobbies. So
you say your bio says that your house becomes a tourist destination. Can you talk a little bit about that? So anybody living in Austin, Minnesota, or Minnesota, period. Tell us a little bit about that and how did that start?
Well, it just started with, oh, these are really nice. I will buy a nativity set one every Christmas for myself. And now I have 950. So
okay, so you bought more than one.
That's right. Once you start looking at nativity sets, there are so many different artists, so many different ways that people have expressed that scene that if you're not careful, pretty soon you have 950. So at Christmas time, the Convention and Visitors Bureau schedules bus tours to come to our house. And the joke is you can't sit down, you can't eat, she can't cook. And my husband says he has to sleep standing up.
Oh my God, because you have that many.
Well, yeah, so we put boards over the couches to make more flat space to put them on. The dining room table is covered. The stovetop and the kitchen counters are covered.
Oh my God. That is very interesting hobby. Todo el mundo, everybody has a different hobby, and it's so interesting to hear a hobby that's like unheard of in a way. And it's not really unheard of because there's people that also collect, not just they collect trains. I know that is actually popular, or coins or something like that, especially for seasons. So it's pretty interesting to hear that you do that. It's so funny. So I do want to talk a little bit about David's Pretzels, because something about the book that stood out, and I think other people were saying in the reviews, is that, some kids are not patient. They don't want to listen to a story, and they don't want to, they don't want to hear, a word that they don't know of. And so when you came up with the design and you came up with the whole theme of it, what was your intention? What is your goal to, when a child brings this, they have this book and their parent brings it, and, or it's in a library or in a community? What's your goal for that? Like, what is your vision when you create these books and then they're in the homes of people?
Well, this particular one is really pretty short because there's just one little sentence for each letter of the alphabet. So it goes pretty fast. But then you can expand it by talking about the sounds of the letters, or even this is a good one for looking at what form the letters are, because how did you make a P out of a pretzel?
Yeah.
So looking at what makes this letter different from another letter, and then you can expand it as much as you want to. What other things? What if there's some things in our room that start with the same sound as David or whatever? It just
Yeah. No, I know what you mean.
You want to make a phonics lesson, or as I said, just learning how books work, that we need to go, we start here and you turn this page and then you turn the next page, and so you read these words from left to right. And there's lots of other things you can just do when you're just talking to your child about the pictures and the words.
Have you ever thought of translating them in other language, como en español, en francés, alemán? Like, have you ever thought of translating them?
Well, unfortunately, I'm a one language person.
Well, you can still translate them and you don't have to translate them. Do you know that, silly?
Yeah. Well, that would be a good thing to do. I have a lot of Facebook friends that are from Brazil because we took a trip to Brazil for...
Oh, fala portugués? Fala portugués?
We were in the northeastern part of Brazil.
Okay.
Not the worst part.
Okay. And did you learn any Portuguese?
Well, I had a person from the seminary there. The missionaries we were visiting had students assigned to each one of us to try to teach us some things. So when I was there, I could say my name is Elena, and I could, what else? Oh, I could say hello and thank you, but that was about the limits of what I could do.
Okay. Well, the reason why I mention it,
David of David's Pretzels, he has continued to practice his Portuguese on with I forget which one of the internet learn a language things. He's still doing that.
Oh, Duolingo. It's probably Duolingo.
Yeah, I think that was the one.
Yeah. The reason why is because I'm super passionate about one, children, two, the communities and helping communities, but also as an Afro-Latina, I'm very passionate about education or just resources in Spanish. And so I went to actually maybe a couple months ago, before this whole coronavirus, I went to Barnes & Nobles and I was with my daughter and I went into the section and I'm like, I don't see that many Spanish books. And at first it was like, I saw these amazing books on the shelves and I'm like, oh my God, I wish this was in Spanish. And, you know, we're raising her to be bilingual, for her to know both languages, English and Spanish. And so I love and I appreciate that. So you might want to think about that because the Hispanic community is very large and also the Portuguese community is very large. And at the same time, as you can hear her in the background, she's very active. But yeah, I think that there's such a need for great books like this. Even if you translated it wouldn't be the same exact words. Like you said, A for what was the word again?
McMaster.
Yeah, I don't think that one would be the one because
you'll find another word.
You'll find another word that's more complicated, of course. But no, I'm just going to leave that little nugget there for you, so you can speak to a publishing company and tell them.
That's really a good thing because I think, surprisingly, Austin, Minnesota has something like 15 languages that are spoken in the home.
Oh, there you go. See,
so there's besides Spanish, we could go for tons of other ones.
Yeah, and Minneapolis is actually, a very large city, and there's a large population, and it's very cultural, diverse as well. Alberta as well is diverse. So, I mean, it definitely is something. Maybe you can call it David's La Galleta Salada de David. I don't know. I'm just giving you. I don't know because we don't really use pretzel. We say galleta. So, but yeah. But no, I did want to ask you one last question because I'm also going to put the information para todo el mundo que quiere comprar el libro, anybody wants to purchase the book if you have a child between ages 4 and 8. And I didn't even think, since this is the alphabets, I think it's always good to explore. There's something that I do, Helen. I look at the ages of things, but sometimes I don't even go by it. I'm like, this book is a little advanced. It's okay to teach them this stuff. It's ABCs. I think it's, Yeah, to broaden their, to pique their attention and their discovery and imagination. And like you said, to pull out the dictionary. I mean, how many people have dictionaries in their house or even thesauruses? I mean, I know when I was younger, I had them, but yeah, no, I'm going to put all the information below so you guys can have access to the book. And I might be doing a giveaway too, so stay tuned for that as well. But I wanted to ask you, Muffer, the last question before we leave you today. It's something a little bit funny because you said you're a plant mom. You have plants. What would your plants, if they could talk, what would they say about you?
Most of them would probably say, water, please.
That is a good one. La planta necesita agua. That means you need to attend to your plants.
That's right. If you're going to be in my house, you have to be tough.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Well, thank you so much, Helen, for being on the show today. I think that you gave us a lot of good insights, and I think I gave you a good idea, which is to translate that book. And if you know other authors or people that your readers or parents, or they have children, or when you do your things and they need help, their children needs help with reading, or they want to volunteer, you can tell them they can volunteer through Dear God, Are We There Yet with the Read With Me program. It's not really a program, it's just a need. We have a lot of children that need to, to read and help them read. And I was going to ask you that another question. Do you have an e-version of this for people as well, or it's just physical?
Yeah, we're just starting, so just getting the paper back out, which is supposed to be in a couple of weeks. So
perfect. Well, awesome. And if you have a library, I urge you guys to call up your library and say, hey, I would love this book at our library. I think that's an amazing way to get books out to communities as well. So if you live either in Minnesota, New York, California, just call up your library and say, David's Pretzels, we want it in our library. And they will call up Helen, purchase the book and get it in the community, because we want amazing books for children, and that's the mission, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Helen, and hasta la próxima, todo el mundo. Muchísimas gracias. Next week, we'll have another great episode, and if you have any questions or you want to be a part of the podcast, you can go ahead and email us at hello@deargodarethereyet.com. And here goes the intro. Not the intro, the outro. Adios. Bye, Helen. Huepa! Thank you for tuning in. Show us your love and join the conversation on one of our redes sociales, social media. Leave a podcast review and be sure to tune in next week. ¿Y qué ahora? What's next? Check out our website and volunteer today. We have so many virtual volunteer opportunities, and remember, you can be a part of the change in a changing world. Hasta la próxima. Besos!